what's up, everybody? Just doing the live Q&A here. Now that it's starting to get my kind of weather, I'm sitting outside to do these things as often as possible. So here is the live. I'm going to go ahead and give you as many, I'll answer as many questions as you guys have. I've got 4 questions to start it off today, so I'm going to start with these. And if you want to have another question, if you have a fitness question, just drop it in the comments, and I'm happy to answer. All right. So Steve hit me up with a bunch of different questions, so I'm going to go through these. He says first, how does weight gain play a role in strength, and how much weight should you gain in a strength block? Okay, I'll take those one at a time. So how does weight gain play a role in strength? Well, I mean, I think what he's asking here is like, how does weighing more like affect your strength? And obviously, so like if you are at a higher weight, you're going to be able to push more weight typically, right? So like if you think about like cars, like think about like what you would want. Let's say you got your car stuck in a ditch. What kind of vehicle would you want like pulling you out of the ditch? Like, do you want like a Honda Civic with like a chain tied to it and it's trying to pull you out? Or do you want like a big like truck, you know what I mean, that's trying to pull you out? Like you want the truck not just for the horsepower stuff, but sheer size, like the force of resistance pushing against it is more, so it can pull more weight. So I mean, the heavier you are, typically, like as long as you've been strength training, the more weight you're going to be able to push. So like me, the same person at 170 pounds is going to probably be able to push less weight than if I'm like at like 195, like on most of my lifts. And that's why, sometimes you'll have somebody who is a really overweight person, but can come in with a already high like squat or leg press. They're not only like have they been walking for a lot and like having to push a lot of weight already because of their sheer body weight, but like they just have that they have a lot more weight behind them to push against the external resistance. So that's how I'd answer the first part. And then he says, how much weight should you gain in a strength block? So what he's referring to here, like strength block, just like a designated amount of time that you are intentionally trying to get stronger and push your lifts up. So like first of all, I'd say it depends how long the strength block is. Like I'm not a power lifter. One of these days I'll probably get into it, but right now like I have not trained as though I'm a power lifter, so I don't do like pure strength blocks like that. But I'll just say, like for simplicity's sake, let's say that a strength block that you've chosen to do is 4 weeks. So it depends where you are on the spectrum. So like if you're somebody who's just now jumping into to weight training, like cold, haven't been doing much of anything in the form of strength and resistance training, then you're probably gonna pick up some weight, especially if you're eating enough. You're gonna pick up weight faster than somebody else. But I happen to know Steve's situation, so I'm gonna answer it as though it's him, and he's somebody who's been lifting for quite a while, has definitely gotten past his like novice beginner like gains and stuff like that. So I would like to see like typically, no more than like 4 pounds a month. I mean, and that's obviously like for somebody like Steve would be really aggressive. I think that, but if somebody's coming in pretty fresh, 4 pounds a month is a good, about a pound a week is the most I really want to see somebody gain. Typically, if they're gaining more than a pound a week, that probably means they're gaining more fat. You always gain and lose fat and muscle simultaneously. You can just skew the percentages, right? So like if you are, if you're eating a lot, but you're also lifting a lot, then you're going to like skew the percentages and you're going to get more muscle and a little fat with it. But if you are eating too much, and or you're not lifting enough, then you're going to skew it the other way and you're going to get more body fat than you do muscle. And so if you're gaining, typically, you can't really gain, unless you're just kind of a genetic freak, you can't really gain much more muscle than like a pound a week. And that's when you're pretty new to it. So like, I mean, for somebody like you, Steve, man, I'd be impressed if you gained like a pound or 2 pounds a month. I know that's how it is for me at this point. So, okay, cool. I think that answers that. If not, let me know, Steve. Let's see. Number 2, he says, how and when do you implement diet breaks? Can being in a consistent caloric deficit combined with weight training for an extended period of time burn you out? Well, yeah, I mean, so like, so let's just say somebody is trying to cut down on body fat, and they're lifting weights while they do it. If they're it depends. First of all, I'll say how long you can last without kind of like becoming exhausted depends on how extreme the deficit is. Typically, I like to put people in like a 20% max calorie deficit. So like, if somebody, I'm probably going to screw the math up when I say this, but if somebody is, let's say that their total daily energy expenditure, which is just how many calories they burn throughout the day, through activity, through just their body doing what it does, to stay alive, all of that, like, let's say they burn 2,600 calories a day. I would put them, probably like 2,000 calories a day, and see where they go with that. And that's a deficit. And at a 2,000 calorie deficit, you're going to be able to do that a lot longer and sustain it without burning out and without your lifts and your weight training suffering too much, and without you just feeling absolutely miserable than if I were to say do 1,500 calories. That's a huge deficit. Rarely do I ever recommend something like that unless it's just a quick jump start. So I would say that it depends on how big the caloric deficit is. But if the caloric deficit is caloric deficit just means you're burning more calories. You're consuming fewer calories than you burn, right? So you're like the whole like energy expenditure exceeds like energy intake through food, through calories. So if you are, if you're consuming, if you're in that caloric deficit and it's not too extreme, it just kind of depends on the person, honestly. I mean, some people, it depends what the side effects are that are affecting them, right? So like for some people, it's going to be like a mental thing, and a psychological thing more like before it's a physical thing. So like they're struggling with compliance with the eating program because they're just like burnt out and they hate their life. They want like other foods and they feel miserable when they are just trying to stick to these calories every day. So for somebody like that, I would implement a diet break, as you put it, Steve, like, sooner than I would for somebody who is not having that issue. But if somebody is not having that issue and they're just like, when they eventually get to a place where their lifts are really suffering, they are not feeling well, even despite like getting enough rest and things like that, they're feeling worn down and exhausted. That's time to me as a coach to help them come out of the caloric deficit. Now, I'm not going to put them in a caloric surplus. I'm going to put them in about their maintenance amount of calories at that point, so that they can hang out at maintenance for a while. They're not going to continue to lose weight during that maintenance time, but they're not going to gain it either. They're typically going to wind up just staying about the same, having that kind of psychological break. And then when they're like, all right, I'm ready to go again, then we drop back into the deficit. So that's how I'd answer that. I mean, and I'm not going to give a specific amount of time because I think it's different for everybody. So, all right, let's see. Third question. Can you gain weight on keto? Yes, you can gain weight on keto. I've beat the keto issue to death over the past week, I think. So I'm not going to go crazy on this. What it comes down to is like, you've got to burn, to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you consume. All right. I don't care if you're on keto. I don't care if you're on paleo. I don't care if you're just eating whatever you see. I don't care if you are fasting for 16 hours a day. Like if you consume more calories than you burn, you will not lose weight. You'll gain weight over time or stay the same if that's about where you've been eating for a long time, but you will not lose weight no matter what diet you're on. Keto is a real thing. Ketosis is when your body turns to the fat stores in your body for energy. So there is a little bit of a boost there to how much fat you can lose if you're in a caloric deficit and not having carbs. But if you're not in a caloric deficit, it does not matter what diet you're on. So if you are eating keto, and you're still in a caloric surplus, which means you're eating more than you burn, then yes, you will. It is highly possible, and I would say even probable for you to gain weight on keto. And the reason is this: a protein, 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbs, each of those is 4 calories, right? So if you eat a gram of protein, it's 4 calories. If you eat a gram of carbs, it's 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, over double the amount of the other 2 macronutrients. So if you get to a point where like you suddenly get rid of all of your carbs and you go to a really high fat diet, which is typical of keto, but you're not paying any attention to your calories at all, and you have a tendency to go toward more foods that are higher calorie, then it is highly possible and even probable for you to gain weight on keto. So that's how I'd answer that. a lot of times people who pay no attention to calories and get on keto and lose a bunch of weight, the reason they do that is because they had a really high carb diet that was the carbs mostly consisted of things like sodas, chips, candies, like all these kind of things that I would say should be sometimes foods, right? Like not bad foods, sometimes foods, but not often foods. So like I would say that those kind of foods, when people are having those all the time, and then suddenly they're on keto and they cut that out because they're carbs, yeah, you're probably going to lose weight, because unless you substitute it with a bunch of other high calorie foods from fat. So that's how I'd answer that. All right, Paul says, I walk 1 mile each way from my car to my workspace. Do I need to still incorporate cardio into my strength training, specifically for weight loss? Man, it totally depends. Like how quickly you want to lose the weight is what it comes down to. Like any activity that you can do, any physical activity that you can do to burn more calories is just going to increase the rate at which you lose the weight. So, what I typically will do with clients who are trying to lose weight, which I prefer the term lose body fat, because we don't really care what the number on the scale says if we look and feel good, right? But like if somebody is trying to lose body fat, and I will put them on a strength training program, and then we do cardio as much, like if they have time for it. If they have cardio at the end of if they have time at the end of a strength session, we'll tack some cardio on there. If they have no time then, but they've got 30 minutes on a day that they're off from the strength training or whatever, we'll throw in the cardio then. You know what I mean? And the cardio can be whatever you want. It can be walking. Walking is one of the best. I would prefer walking to running personally, because it doesn't really affect your training as much. If you go out running a long time, you are probably going to be putting a lot of, man, the sun is getting serious. You're probably going to put a lot of tension on your joints and things like that, which can then affect your strength training, like your squats and your deadlifts and things like that. So I prefer things like biking or walking for your cardio, even rowing if it doesn't, which depending on the timing, it can also affect your strength stuff. But that's kind of how I'd answer it. It just depends. If you have time to do more cardio and you want to lose the body fat a little bit quicker, throw in more cardio when you want to. If not, then just do what you're doing, man. It sounds good to me. Let's see. Any other questions pop up? What's up, everybody? Thanks for jumping in here. Hello, Clark. Thanks for saying hello. All right. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to comment later, and I will answer them. Hope you're having a good Friday. By the way, I know I usually do this on Wednesday. It's been a crazy week, so here I am on Friday. Hope you guys have a good rest of the Friday and your weekend.